Oil is legalized in Tennessee, and medical marijuana defense is now winning some cases in Florida. We're back. This is a Nug Life Radio Show, a higher level of education for the cannabis counterculture community. You can call us in at 760-798-3127. If you're listening to us now, you're listening to us on nugliferadio.com or KNSJ 89.1 FM. Or K-High out there in Denver at 1580 AM or K-Bomb in Vegas. We are the only syndicated cannabis education show in the country. Many claim it. We're living it. Welcome back. I'm Medicinal Mike, cannabis comedian and connoisseur of pot. Not the chronosaur, to be mistaken at all. We're also here with 30-year family physician, addiction counselor from Compassionate Harvest Medical Clinic.
I'm the medical sore.
Did I say that right?
Yeah,
the medical sore.
Dr. Wayne Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
Healing people with just the sound of his voice week after week after week.
And a little cannabis on the side.
People call me all day and they're like, man, I had no leg and Dr. Kelly just touched me and my leg grew back.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's because my middle name's Jesus.
How was your week?
Well, it's I work hard, Mike. I see a lot of patients. I just saw a very interesting woman who has Parkinson's and just has miraculous effects with cannabis. It's always uplifting for me to see these people who don't respond to pharmaceuticals and have a tremendous response to the cannabis. So she was the last patient I saw, and she tremors, shakes all the time, smokes a little cannabis, and the shaking just goes away completely.
That was going to be my follow-up question because I have a friend right now who's dealing with chronic pain. She has nerve damage, discs, and all that. And I feel like is smoking not strong enough, but the edibles tend to be too strong, or is that just the game where it's not regulated enough that I have to do a guessing game to find out that right dose is?
Unfortunately, that's the case that most people encounter. My patients do have trouble with that, knowing how to find the right dose. I mean, I always tell them you start with the lowest dose possible. If you're inhaling it, you take 1 puff and see how you feel. Take 2 puffs. If it's an edible, you eat a quarter and see how the quarter makes you feel. Of course, there's a lot of variability between the dispensaries and the kind of products they sell, and a brownie in one dispensary is not the same, of course, as a brownie in another. It is a bit of a problem, but you titrate your dose, like with medication. You start on the lowest dose, and you work up to what works for you.
And you have to rely a lot on brand consistency, too, I guess.
Yeah, that's really hard, isn't it? There's a lot of trouble with having that kind of consistency. So, basically people, but they usually find a dispensary that works for them, so that they know that this particular product is what works for them, and they stick to that. And that's what I recommend is, you find the right dispensary and you stick to it.
Yeah, there you go. So if you find a family, that's your family right there. When you belong to a dispensary, that's what it's supposed to be. When you sign that paper in California, you're only supposed to belong to one. So make sure that you find one that you like. Our next guest on the show, I brought for you, Doctor. This is the one. Heidi Grossman. She's a cannabis advocate and a patient, as well as being the founder and the executive director of Sugar Leaf Productions, a professional cannabis consulting company that provides expert witness testimony to clients as well as legal trade practices within the medical cannabis industry. So Heidi here is an expert witness with the California Supreme Court. Heidi, you there?
Yeah, it's Superior Court. But very
there you go. Thankfully, I've never had to go there.
Hi, Ms. Grossman. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
Good, very good. Thanks.
Heidi, how does one become an expert witness on cannabis? I meet a lot of people, and they kind of all think they're experts.
Right. Well, first of all, you have to know what the law is regarding medical cannabis. You have to be very fluent in explaining certain situations, certain case laws. I have a degree from Amsterdam University that I got in 2009. I also went to the 420 College. I have my associate's degree with paralegal studies. I've been doing that for about 15 years. So I started cultivating about 10 years ago myself, and then I got educated, and I am right now the executive secretary for Sacramento Normal, too.
You are busy.
You've got credentials up the gazoo, so to speak.
How long does it take to get that kind of an education?
I'm going on 10 years now, and I think the more active you are as a person, let me give you an example of our day in the life of today. We went to the Board of County Super up at 6 in the morning. We're at the Board of County Supervisors by 9 o'clock in Placer County, where they were considering a ban. We came, we spoke out. They're not going to ban it. And so.
And is that directly because you guys spoke out, or?
It's because, yes, the people come together and they come and they speak and they help educate these people. A lot of the Board of Supervisors, law enforcement, they're all very uneducated. We had a sheriff get up and say, the law is very vague. No, I'm sorry, it's very clear. You're not supposed to arrest patients. It's very clearly stated. And we're allowed to be business entities. We're allowed to be organized businesses that run, and we're not allowed to make a profit. We have to run as nonprofits, but that doesn't mean you can't make $1 million a year. If you're saving, 20,000 lives a year, you should be compensated for helping others in that way. And when you can organize and provide jobs for people, there's a lot of jobs that are coming up in this business.
What's the most common prejudice that you run into when you're trying to deal with community people like this, or even in law enforcement?
The most prejudice we have is people that are uneducated. Being uneducated is probably where we find the most prejudice and discrimination, because people don't understand the benefits of medical cannabis. The science is there, Google is there, and in my opinion, it's a choice to be ignorant in the day of information.
How do you explain to somebody on the spot? I ran into a similar situation myself where the education is just so far off base that trying to bring them in, you could see, is like, it's just time and effort. How do you deal with that?
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
Let's say you have somebody that's just, they're so old-fashioned and so anti-cannabis, and you see it's from just having none of the facts.
Right. You can go to a website. It's called besane.org. There's another one called FACT, which is Families Against Cannabis Trafficking. There's a lot of organizations that are out there. They sit behind us at Board of Supervisors meetings, City Council meetings, and they heckle us, and they call us potheads and tell us to get jobs. And I'm like, lady, you couldn't keep up with me. I've had meetings, phone calls all day. I'm up at 6 in the morning, and I'll probably be working till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I have a meeting at for the Crusaders for Patients' Rights tonight with Lynette Davies, who's a very prominent woman in our industry. She's fighting the IRS over the 280E rule, saying that medical cannabis businesses should be allowed to run and operate as a 501c3, just like every other nonprofit.
Do you ever feel like setback when certain, especially when you work as hard as someone like yourself does, and you have like a situation like Redding, California, where the vote goes so backwards and sideways, it messes up all the patients in the community? How much of a setback is that for you when it doesn't go as planned?
That was a huge setback this season. This whole year we had Tahoma County I think they banned, Shasta County banned, Butte County banned, Yuba County banned, Lake County banned. There's bans going on all around us. And thank you to Placer County Board of Supervisors today who did not take our rights away. But it's very upsetting. It's very disappointing. I have a lot of people that I work with in this business, and they're being bankrupted by these bans. And they're true patient providers. They're not the guerrilla grows. They're not the people out there selling over state lines. These are true compassionate providers. And we're still getting arrested. We're getting caught in the crossfire. So that's one of the most devastating things, and knowing that people are still sitting in jail.
Now, even with the state laws that are, sometimes in our favor, is there really a safe place, in the U.S. as far as that's concerned, where you can just be open and say, hey, I'm a cannabis person, and not have to worry about any repercussions whatsoever?
Well, we still have a federal threat. They're not done. They're still arresting and charging people. In the States, it does kind of depend on what kind of counties you're in and where you're at, whether local law enforcement is friendly or unfriendly. You can go up into Mendo and Humboldt, and they don't care. You go up into Trinity, they don't care. When you go into certain places like Yuba, where I was raided last year, they don't care. They don't bother to check to see if you're an actual medical patient provider or a registered patient association with the state of California, which I am, before raiding people. They need to start checking, and they need to start getting educated on how medical cannabis businesses operate before they start stealing our property and stealing our patients' medicine. I even had a patient that died because When James Benno got arrested and raided up in Shasta County, I took over some of his patients and we're going to provide for them. Well, they came and took my plants again away from the kids twice, and we lost Spencer Coptis, and that was just such a tragedy because his medicine was stolen twice by the sheriff's department.
Are they targeting you because we're the ones who are basically out there on social media saying, hey, we need support for this issue and that issue, and it makes us the low-hanging fruit as opposed to chasing somebody down through a mountain?
Well, you've got to remember who's behind all these measures and who's backing this and funding it, and most of it's the Sheriff's Association. And it's these little offset groups that hate us, like the Be Sane and the